So you say Earth is a school for learning, the place that we actually just come to perform our soul's evolution. So we how do we know, and how does those lessons that we need to evolve our soul show up here?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. I think as you grow in your own journey of evolution, you become cognizant, aware, and conscious of the constant learning that is taking place as you live. For example, we might just think that brushing our teeth every day is just something you've learned to do, but you're actually cleaning your mouth for oral hygiene. And in that process, you've learned the ritual of keeping your action consistent so you can get the result that you want. You brush your teeth every day so you have good oral hygiene. You would not brush your teeth if you didn't need to, but you're doing it for a specific purpose, and you've learned to do it so well that now you're able to see the results of what you are attempting to do. And so now you've gone from something that was just taught to you randomly and you unconsciously did it to a conscious understanding of this is why I do it. I do X to get Y result. And I think that that is an example of life in itself on earth. You're constantly learning, and you're learning while you're doing things unconsciously. And the learning is to take your brain from doing these things unconsciously to conscious choices that are evolving your soul. Every moment, every second, every part of your being is here for soul evolution. There is nothing that has taken place on this moment, in this lifetime, in this earth, in this experience that is not geared towards your soul's evolution. Now, there are different types of schools. You could have a difficult school where you're learning through trauma and pain, and you're learning through negative, or I wouldn't even call them negative, but just painful experiences. And then there's also learning through blissful experiences, learning how to love and learning what it feels like to receive authentic, unconditional love, and then choosing to go and reciprocate that in the world. They're all part of a journey to grow your soul, whether it's the negative or the loving and the happy. And so part of living is just being able to take those experiences that happen in your life, whether you cause them or they happen without you causing them, or things in your control or outside of your control, and not evaluating them on how much pain they brought you or how much joy they brought you, but what lesson was that experience meant to teach you. And with that perspective, then you're no longer looking at parts of life, challenges and blessings, or however you like to call them, as good or bad, but you're looking at every single facet of your life as a part of your school of evolution. What is this moment supposed to teach me? What is this experience supposed to teach me? What can I learn from this joyful moment? What can I learn from this sorrow? Everything becomes about your soul learning and growing. And so many times before we're conscious of that, we look at life and evaluate it on a perspective of good or bad. And usually that's given to us by our surroundings, our family, our religion, our media, whatever the circumstance may be. And we're just evaluating things, but we're not consciously creating. So what that means, say we live a life, I'm a man, I turn 18, I'm supposed to go to college. That's good because society says that's good. Now I'm 24, I've graduated college, I have a job, I must find a wife because that's good. That's what I'm supposed to do. I have a wife, I now get married, I have children. Like, this is what we're being taught is good. But is that good for my soul? And that's the conscious question you should ask. What life is giving your soul the opportunity to grow as it should? Now, if you feel naturally inclined to do all those things and to follow that trajectory, then that is the life that your soul came to live, to learn the lessons it meant to learn. You're going to learn lessons through love with your children. You're going to learn lessons about who you really are as a soul through your partnership with your wife or your spouse, in the example that I gave earlier. if that's your trajectory. You're going to learn examples in your classroom, with your studies in college. You're going to always have opportunities with your experiences with maybe a pet, a cat that your grandmother owned that you had a connection to. Throughout your life, you have incomprehensible numbers of opportunity to grow your soul. And a lot of times we get caught up in the drama of what's happening in life instead of catching the opportunity to learn how we're supposed to grow through that drama or through that experience. Because it doesn't have to be dramatic if you learn to take those experiences and just evaluate them from a soul educational perspective. And so a lot of our time on this earth is even learning to see life in that way, to see every opportunity as a chance to grow and to learn, and to know that every part of our lives, the things that we orchestrated and the things that we didn't, sometimes things go as we planned, sometimes they don't. But all of those moments are really moments for your soul to say to itself, am I conscious and aware enough to have the moment and react in a way that edifies the person and the soul that I want to be? Or am I just a person that is kind of reacting the way I've been taught to react, or the way that society tells me to react to these things? And I'm just kind of living a prescripted or a scripted life that was kind of presented by the people who raised me and the society that raised me. And I don't think living a prescriptive life is bad. It's just a part of the evolution for you to wake up and then say to yourself, well, did I make this plan, or did someone else make this plan for me? And if I didn't make this plan, what plans do I make for myself? How do I make a plan for my life that makes sense for me? And to answer those questions, you do the soul work of saying, well, what edifies my life? What feels good? What do I natively feel called to do? Who do I natively feel called to be? And that's a hard journey for many people, because who we really are is typically not who we're taught to be. I'll say that again. Who we really are is not typically who we're taught to be. I remember being a kid and seeing, certain kids are wild. They come out of the womb wanting to scream and yell and be aggressive and make noise. And there's other kids that are very quiet and want to observe and read and sit in silent corners and be more passive in their existence in the public. And we think about that as, well, each kid has their own personality, but at some point you start to gear that wild kid into being a more subtle person, because that's how our society calls us to be. But what we don't realize is that that wildness in that child might be a type of art form that later comes out that heals the world. And we needed that fire energy. We needed that extreme version of how a child can show up to be in its real self, not some subdued version that looks like the brother or the sister of that wild child. But that wild child needs to be itself, so that energy can be birthed in the earth, and we can all benefit from whatever medicine that wildness was supposed to bring. And again, I'm not saying that there's no need for control, or at least having some form of societal norms that help us to agree and exist on the planet as a multitude of people. We have to have some structure. But there is a part of us that needs to be our most authentic, raw, real self, to do and grow, to do the work we came to do, to grow in the ways that we came to grow. If you're putting on a mask and being someone else, you're not having the opportunity to see your real soul, to see, who are you really in that argument? Who are you really in the moments where kindness is an opportunity for you to extend to someone else? Will you do it? When that homeless person comes and asks you for something, and you're afraid of them more than you're concerned about giving to them and helping them, that's not a good or bad thing. That's a reflection of where you are. That's a moment for yourself to say, well, why was I afraid of that human? Oh, because I heard a story that they can hurt someone, or I have a friend who was robbed by a homeless person. Okay, well, that's a rationale to have fear. Do I want to live with that fear in me? Is that other person's fear or experience going to drive what I do? Those are all the deeper questions that help to evolve the soul, that help the soul see, where do I have fear? Where am I taking on the fears of my ancestors? Where am I taking and carrying the fears of my parents into my actual life today? And those are the questions that help to stir the soul to say, well, do I want to be fearful? Do I want to carry my mom's fears? Do I want to create my own set of rules? Do I want to let go of fear and be a free human? And as you do those things, that is your soul evolving. That is your soul waking up, breaking out of the confinement of what you've been taught to be, and really just being free. And that freedom is how you grow. In that freedom, then you will start to say, okay, maybe, I'm a horticulturalist and my society taught me to be a finance professional, but I love plants. I have an extreme desire to learn more about plant medicine and give this to my community. So because I've now done that work to become free, I then go and say, forget what people say, forget what I'm worried about, the fears of not having the money. I'm going to quit my steady job and go learn how to be a horticulturalist. And that path might lead you to cure cancer through finding the right herbs. But we won't get that cure if you spend your life doing the finance work that is not applicable to your soul's journey. It might be what your society told you to do. It might be what's safe. It might be what you feel is the right path based on what you were taught. But your soul always gives you these hints and little nudges to get you on the path to its real purpose. And so when you think about, how we can learn in the school of earth, it's a lot of just feeling, learning to hear that inner voice, to respond to that nudge, to say when you are in a moment and you hear that little, something's not right about this, or this is not where I should be. You should act on that. That is a part of the soul's evolution, learning to hear that inner voice and then having the strength within to actually act upon it. And all of that is a part of the journey of the life on earth. And maybe you don't learn it all in one lifetime. Maybe you learn to act on 20% of your soul's noise or inertia in this life, and in the next life you pick up where you left off with that 20% understood. And you grow, and you maybe get to a 50% in the next lifetime where you remember, okay, this is what it feels like to hear from my soul saying which direction to go. And now I'm learning how to actually make that choice and not let the fear of what will happen cripple me. And all of those learnings just keep compounding as you live and as you grow and as you die and as you reincarnate. And your soul just continues this process of learning to be its authentic self and bring the medicine it's built to bring to this world.